do. It is. It is a pain. Well, it's on the. Hold on.
There we go, but echoing, it said the Lamer Linux, yeah. There we go, but I think we...
Okay. No, that's... All right, so why are you guys not... Oh, that's why. Okay, so everybody say something, or somebody say something.
Best.
Good morning and Merry Christmas to all.
Okay, so now that we actually have sound...
We're all talking over each other.
Everybody missed the whole Merry Christmas thing, you know, like, oh my gosh. Oh, well.
And poor Colin's trying to sort his sound out as well.
If you guys would just, like, join the Zoom room, then you won't have to worry about listening, so.
Don't worry, Jeff. I'm taking care of the admissions right now.
Good morning, Mr. Digital.
Michael?
Hello.
What's happening?
Hi, Barbara.
Just things.
Hello.
Barbara?
Yep. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Can anyone hear me? Anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Can now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Greetings and salutations. Thanks for coming into the Zoom room.
Colin, did you like distro hop and that's why you're having sound issues, or are you just having sound issues?
I'm not normally on this little laptop. It's the only one that I could take to travel with me. It's really small. So I think, I don't know what was going on there. It just didn't, I couldn't hear you guys. So I'm not sure.
That's right. You're not home now, are you? That's right.
I'm in Thailand.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
And he takes the time to talk to us. What a guy.
Amazing.
Mate, I've had enough of shopping, so you guys were the next best thing.
Oh, we're second rate, right?
But only to shopping, so that's okay.
Oh, jeez.
That puts us pretty low on the totem pole.
I'd say, Matt.
It does.
Didn't think about that, did I?
Shopping. What are you talking about? Shopping's the best.
Oh, no, I don't much.
Yeah, from the comfort of your own home on the backside of a keyboard.
That's true.
No, Clifford, I'm sorry if you needed to do a restart because of the sound issue. Sorry about that. That was my fault. Well, it wasn't really my fault, but I'll take the blame for it because it was all on my end.
Oh, so there was a problem. It wasn't just me, was it? Or...
there was no sound coming anywhere. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm on Ubuntu.
Which version?
17.10.
Is your BIOS working properly?
I was going to ask that.
It's an old computer, so it should be fine.
Okay.
I had Ferran OS on here, and I was just having a few issues with that, and I just slapped the Ubuntu on. I thought, should I take a couple of more ISOs with me? Thought, no, I won't bother. And so I'm stuck with this, but it's running all right. So.
And yes, Clifford, it was Ryan's fault.
Well, you know, speaking of Ryan, you know, the guy will do anything to get out of being on this show. Like,
what's he done now?
Oh my gosh, he's using his family as an excuse, like some ridiculous excuse, like he had to rush his daughter to the hospital. You know, like.
Oh wow! Hope she's okay.
No, she's fine. She hit her head and she needed to go to the hospital, but he said that she's okay. So
that's good.
Cool.
Trampoline or something, or new Christmas present? Or
I have no idea.
I'm just
glad she's okay. So
yeah, that's right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, kids will be kids.
I have a suspicion that he got her some bongo drums and taught her the wrong way to use them.
Everybody stick with the peppermint theme tonight. Gotta have a peppermint theme.
Peppermint theme. I don't have a peppermint theme.
I
do have some I am festive.
You are festive. Yeah, I said I had a Santa hat around here somewhere.
I've got one in the other room. I gotta dig it out.
I'm not an elf.
What distro will replace Mint in 2018?
Something good.
Wait,
Solus?
Important in 2017. What?
Well, I'll tell you what, Solus has climbed the ladder, hasn't it, during the year?
Solus has already taken over as far as like popularity goes, for sure. And
Yeah.
the whole and Budgie 11 probably going to come in 2018. I'd be shocked if it didn't, just in the speed of how much they do.
Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Shane.
Simon?
If you've got a waiting room, I can't see it.
I thought I had a waiting room on here. I don't know, dude.
I keep seeing it somehow, so I'm letting everybody in.
Well done, Joe.
Yeah, the waiting room blocked me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, this is weird because this says Joe's hosting it.
Joe is not the host. For
I'm
crying
not.
out loud.
Participants, it says.
That's what it says, though.
Joe Daddy Linux.
Joe did it. Yeah. So
That's concerning.
Hi, Simon.
All right.
Hey,
There you
Shane.
go.
Rocco is hosting now.
Yeah, I just moved it over.
And Pete.
Awesome. Thank you.
The whole gang's here. Who are we missing besides Ryan?
Ryan. Of course we're missing Ryan. He has a good excuse, though. It's
He's
an
been
excuse.
avoiding us.
It's an excuse, but it is a good
Yeah.
one.
But
So.
he's been avoiding us ever since the Antragos fiasco.
Mm-hmm. I know.
No, he was on last week, though, wasn't he? So
He was
we
on
gave him
last week.
Oh, that's right. We did give him a little bit of a ration there.
A little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Let's,
So
let's be honest. It was more than a little bit.
I'm being nice. You know,
He
it's hard.
deserved.
so that should be done
he
and
deserved
dusted
a lot
now,
of it.
shouldn't it?
Barb, we've already been over this. I don't do nice.
I try to. Doesn't always work though.
So
Matt, at least you do it with a smile on your face. That's all.
Apparently, you haven't watched some of my not safe for work videos then, because there ain't a smile on that face.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've got an unstable internet, so
that's surprising there, Colin.
I was going to say
Well-
it's actually more stable than what he normally has, or it seems that way.
well, I would
Right.
have thought so. And I'm closer to you guys. I'm in Thailand on the way from Australia, so I'm actually closer to you guys than what I normally am. So, but hey, hotel Wi-Fi.
Right?
And chat says you cured the buffering, Rocco, so well done.
Nice. I love it.
Oh,
Good
We
job.
should tweet that we're live from the Biddle account. Yeah, probably. That would probably be a good idea.
Nice promotion, Rocco.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm not the promotion guy, dude. I just
the
set
promotion
things.
guy.
I set stuff up. That's all. All right. So, what? One of the top distros that came out, MX Linux. Anybody running it?
Mm-mm.
I've got it on my machine, but I'm not running it tonight.
No, here
And
we
I
are.
seen they fixed the issue you had with it, Zeb.
Comic relief.
They've given a workaround. It's not in the main distribution yet because they're still testing it out. But yeah, they've given you the option to edit the right-click menu so that it always asks for the password, and they do that by flushing the GNOME key
There. Then you're not going
before the command is executed. Because apparently on XFCE you can run two commands on one line just by putting a semicolon in between the two. But what they didn't mention in that video, in that exact same place, you can right-click and delete that command. So that's what I'll be telling everybody I put on it to do.
Nice.
But what I was quite shocked when I first saw the video because it says, "This one's for Zeb." And I thought, oh, God, what have I done?
Yeah, this one for Zed.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
there
a
you
fair
go.
call anyway, I believe.
It's not the best tweet in the world, but it's out there. There you go. All right, so Simon made a appearance on Destination Linux this latest episode. Woohoo! So he was talking about the Ubuntu 17.10 issues. So give us the rundown, Simon.
So it was discovered recently that when installing Ubuntu 17.10 and a couple other distros, I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's a Linux kernel specific thing, and I think Antergos has also had problems. But when you install Ubuntu 17.10 on a select number of Linux distributions, or a select number of laptops, I mean, it will, have some problems. A couple of which are you can no longer write to the BIOS, and in some cases, laptops are completely bricked after installing 17.10.
That's no good.
Sometimes, but yeah, it's not good at all.
That's why I said about Colin about you running 1710 right now. I was like hoping your BIOS was running right.
I don't think
this thing's fairly old, so I don't think it should be an issue anyway. It's a HP. So
Portable products, right? Yeah.
Well, there's other laptops besides Lenovo that are affected by
I
it.
think there was Acer and Toshiba, possibly.
Acer for sure. Toshiba's like there's a few outliers that say that they're having the same effect, but it's not been confirmed.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they've sort of sorted it out geographically, but I've got one of the affected laptops allegedly, and I put Ubuntu Budgie on there the other week, and I've got no problems with it.
Mm-hmm. Theoretically, though, if you upgrade from 1604 to 1710, since the new kernel, the fixed kernel, has been released into the updates pocket for 1710, you should be fine if you just upgrade. But
oh, wow.
The problem is we have 1710 images that don't pull in those updates. So Ubuntu has pulled those images. So
yeah, they have to respin new ones.
Yeah. Zeb, give it to him. Go ahead, Zeb. Give it to him.
No, I'm not going to mention the thing. I already did it.
You're not going to mention that
because he did it earlier today already. He doesn't have to do it again.
Yes, but he didn't do it here.
No, we did
anybody
that they put an interesting spin on their news article.
Yeah. One particular website called it a respin of the ISOs.
Wow. Yes, because that's what it is.
It's not what it is.
One small step. That's all I'm going to say.
One for Zeb. That's all I'm saying.
I want to look into this because I'm just genuinely curious on what the story is there.
Softpedia called it a respin, and that's it.
Called Peppermint a respin, or called this?
No, you called the Ubuntu ISOs when they come out when it's fixed. They're going to be respinning the ISOs.
Yeah,
which is technically correct.
Yes. Well, Michael was giving Zeb a hard time last week because
I didn't give anybody Peppermint a hard time. I specifically said, I'm not saying you're wrong. You're not wrong. It's technically correct. It just creates a bit of confusion where it doesn't need to be.
Peppermint 8 is named Peppermint 8 Respin. And
are you serious? I did not know this.
Yep.
So he was giving Zeb a really hard time last week about the fact that it was named Peppermint 8 Respin.
And I didn't even bring it up. Zeb brought it up last week too. It's not my fault. Okay, this time I did bring it up.
But not choosing names like that because I say Respin. Everybody says respin, and of course now you got to say respin, and it's going to be all confusing. Come on.
That's all right, Simon. English Bob calls it 8.5.
Well, he calls everything what he wants, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Somebody's starting to hate the live background. Oh no.
Huh?
Sorry.
Oh, the little stars.
I'm sorry.
I like
That's
that.
cool. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. You're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
What can I say? Anyway.
Should have spoken to Michael and had some snow in the background there.
Yeah, that's what I did. I actually don't have anything moving my background on my show normally. And I was like, you know what? It's Christmas. No.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you all see the news about Thunderbird actually getting updates and people doing things and they're hiring people? And
what?
It's pretty awesome.
Thunderbird actually does stuff. What?
Yeah, exactly. They're actually doing stuff now, which is
That's because
great.
they've been hearing you complain on this show for so long, Michael, that they're doing something about it now.
See, I stuck with Thunderbird. I believed in it.
No. It's not about whether you were stuck on Thunderbird. It's that Thunderbird was stuck on Thunderbird.
Yes, exactly.
That's the problem.
But yeah, no, I'm glad to see stuff happening there.
They're giving it a new look, aren't they? Mm-hmm. A bit of a new look, dressing up.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is they're actually, like, it seems to me anyway, that they're listening to concerns. So the first couple of changes that they make may not be like big, huge changes, but they're actually listening. If you go on their media, some of their pages.
Have you gone to the Medium page?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on it right now, and they have some. People are saying, "Hey, this is what Thunderbird could or should look like." And man, if they made Thunderbird look like that, it would be the best mail client ever.
Mm-hmm. There's a debate, like not debate, but there's a discussion about whether they should have like this one design that's like so much better. It looks modern. Like there's some weirdness about it. Like the sidebar on the left is way too big for those icons. But overall, it's a much better implementation of even the new version that they're demonstrating now. Because they're redesigning it now, and they could redesign it again to even better. And they're redesigning the logo, kind of. I mean, but yeah, it's much better improvement. Although the logo, I said in my show that I don't like the fact that the envelope is yellowish. It looks like the super old paper that's been waterlogged. It's like just go back to the gray and white. That's fine. Like, what is that?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing is that there's actually movement and people are doing things. So that's the most exciting part.
They're also doing their the Thunderbird Foundation stuff too.
And
that's not right now. That they're working with Mozilla Foundation right now, but still, they're doing a lot of stuff, and it is, I'm super excited, especially if they get Lightning to work like by default.
Yep. Yeah, but now is that going to be something where it continues to break every update? Or
the issue is that their Lightning was Lightning was like an officially recognized add-on for a very long time, and it worked every single time, except this latest version, is 57 Firefox based kind of thing, and therefore they have to rebuild it essentially.
So what's prompted this flurry of manufacturers and developers suddenly listening to their users and producing what they want?
That's like, why?
Well, they try to educate, everything just gets screwed up, and we're very vocal about it.
Yep.
We have many mediums to yell at them about it.
That's right.
Yeah, because Twitter and Facebook
and when I say innovate, I mean innovate, right?
Innovation.
Innovation.
JP's right. We're also working on a snap build for it too, and an official snap build. So
yeah. That's fantastic too.
Yep.
Well, because you've had MailSpring come out, which is a pretty good, not a bad mail client. I've used that.
MailSpring is great, except for I have an issue with it as far as it doesn't sync right with Hushmail. Every other email service it works with perfect.
Yep.
But for some reason, Hushmail does not want to sync with it. And the other thing is, you do have to have a
proprietary account.
Yeah, you got to have an account so all the emails go through their server. So
okay.
You don't even know what they're doing with it because they won't tell you, because their back end is closed proprietary source, and their front end is like, we're open on one side, but we also have this whole restriction that the open part, you can't bypass that part. You got to use this account.
Well, we're going to draw you in with this very good-looking mail client, because it really is a nice looking mail client.
It's very nice looking.
And it has a lot of nice features on it.
Literally every email I get.
And there's no other good-looking mail client within Linux, so people are going to jump on
good.
Right?
Wait. Good-looking and working doesn't always comply with Linux.
Right. Thunderbird.
I like the evolution, to be honest with you, but the only thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't sync contacts, which that's more important to me than even mail right now.
Yeah. Yep. It's been a known fact. Good looking in Linux doesn't always get
Geary looks very nice.
And has no settings
but
whatsoever.
The fact that you can't even sort by unread, like one of the most basic things. But you just said there's nothing good looking. I'm like, huh?
No, I said good looking and working don't work. Don't
I
go
did
together
say
with
that.
Linux.
I did say that. Yeah, that's true.
That white vanilla GNOME.
That have both.
Yeah, we gotta go back to GNOME. Hey, I got a great idea. Why don't we start the 32-bit debate? Huh?
No.
So you see that NVIDIA thing?
Yes, that's why I brought it up.
If you were going to do that, invite some Windows users in here while you're at it too.
It actually just confirms that it's going to happen. Like it's going to happen soon, even.
Well, everybody's
with the newest drivers with 390.
No, 390 keeps support. It's after that.
It's after that.
The next
I thought it was 390.
No, 390 was that's like, hey, guess
one.
what? This is the last one you can use 32-bit on.
Yeah, it'll become legacy.
Yeah,
and
so they made the announcement like right before they dropped the latest drivers, and people were like, "What?"
And how long are they going to support those drivers?
Well, if it's NVIDIA, so probably like at least a few years, probably about 4 or 5 years or so, something like that.
Right. So you have a little bit of time anyway.
Yeah, they usually provide legacy support for their drivers.
You've had a little bit of time over the last. You've had a little bit of time over the last about 12 years to update from 32-bit.
I don't think there was as much of a complaint when they went from 16 to 32-bit. So now it's, I don't know.
What's the issue here? I mean, if you got a 32-bit laptop, I've got one at home. People are still making 32-bit supported distros anyway, aren't they?
MX Linux.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's mainly the sense of like, how many people have a powerful 32-bit laptop? Nobody.
I wouldn't say many. Okay. Nobody, no.
Yeah, nobody, because that doesn't exist. So, like,
that's right.
Wait, it all depends on what year you're talking about.
Like, I don't see a problem with NVIDIA doing this because they don't have. No one has in like 32-bit architecture that has a really powerful graphics card because. That would be defeating the point of having that graphics card.
Yep.
15 years ago, that wasn't true.
That's correct, because 15 years ago, we barely had 64-bit. I think 64-bit started in 2003, so we didn't even have 64-bit then.
See? Wasn't true then.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last computer I had that was like 32-bit.
In 1902, we had an abacus. So
yes, they did have mechanical calculators. Monroe made these mechanical calculators maybe a little later, maybe by the 1920s and 30s. My father had one on his desk in his office, and he wouldn't get rid of it. It was huge.
I didn't know that existed,
and it was cool.
I still don't know how to use it. I have no idea how to use an abacus.
I do.
You should know. You make a YouTube video teaching people how to use an abacus.
I actually even have a very large abacus. Not in this room, but I do have one. It's in the barn.
All I know is it kept my grandchildren happy growing up.
The only thing I know about an abacus is how to say abacus.
Yeah.
Now spell it.
ABA. So 32-bit, huh?
Yeah, 32-bit.
Now, okay, if we progress a little bit an abacus, what about a slide rule? Anybody know how to use one of those?
Oh, no.
Oh, the best.
I can use a slide whistle.
Huh?
Slide whistles. I can use those.
The best invention was the scientific calculator.
TI, FTW.
Yeah.
All right. So, who's bought what on the Steam Winter Sale? Come on.
Nope.
Controllers.
Matt. You know you bought something.
Yes, I bought a few things. Michael will actually like what one of those games are.
What'd you buy?
I picked up Rocket League finally.
There you go.
Yes, I love it. It's about time.
At $11.99, you kind of can't really complain.
That's right.
I picked up.
You drank the Kool-Aid.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Yes. I also picked up a few other games. One called Vanquish and another called Bayonetta. They were like $10 a piece. So.
Yeah, Bayonetta's a pretty good game.
Nice. Anybody else?
I got Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
Say that twice when you're drunk.
When you're drunk. Wow. Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
I don't think Michael will get one of those words.
Repeat that again.
Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
So what's crazy is I'm not even a gamer and I bought 4. Why?
What did you buy, Zeb?
I've now got Counter-Strike, a driving game. I can't even find a Dirt Showdown.
Dirt, yeah.
I can't even remember what I bought then. I've got Rocket League from the previous sale. I'm still chasing the ball around, by the way. I don't think I've scored a single goal yet.
You have to go to the Tux Digital School of Rocket League first.
Ah, I see. And get humiliated, yeah?
Oh, no. We're very, very open.
Textdigital.com.
Wait, that's not the school I went to.
Well, I mean,
I went to. Don't you ever do that again.
that did not happen.
We need to have an amateur tournament here with everybody.
I'm a very patient teacher. Okay.
He's very patient. He is a very patient teacher. Once in a while, he gets the.
Until he
don't respond to me, I will go. Hey, Rocco, what?
Now, this is what he says to me one day. What did you do wrong? I'm like, what? What did you do wrong?
Started playing.
Are you kidding me? He would not let this go. He kept saying, "What did you do wrong?" Oh no, this ain't happening.
This is what Rocco said. That's it. Nothing. That's why I was like,
"You scared him?
Are you mad at me, or are you just not talking to me?" He's like, "I'm just gonna respond to you."
Hey, Rocco.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you going to share with everybody the invitation that we got?
What invitation did we get? Oh, yeah. Good thinking. Hey, English Bob, EB, Steve, aka Peppermint Trucker. He said that we should all do a Sunday night trucking live stream with him and a few other people. So he, like, the people here would, and the people that usually join his stream, do a multiplayer Euro Truck Simulator stream.
Yeah.
Multiplayer.
Because you can play multiplayer on Linux now. It finally works.
I don't have that game, but I'm totally wanting to get that.
It's on the winter Steam sale for $4.99.
Oh, can you? So are you telling me I should go to tuxdigital.com/Steam sale?
I'm saying you should probably go to tuxdigital.com/Steam sale and grab yourself a copy of Euro Truck Simulator for $4.99.
Yeah, but I talked him into doing American Truck Simulator.
Yes, he did say he actually got what is that called, Zeb, that he was using to play the multiplayer?
It's just a Truckers MP CLI.
Okay, so he got American Truck Simulator to work with that, so you could actually play multiplayer, even though it's really made for Euro Truck Simulator. He got it working with American Truck Simulator, so we could play that too. I have that game.
Nice.
I just don't know if I'd be able to figure out how to do multiplayer on here. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. I was trying to mess around with it ever since I saw that show the other day.
So it would be really cool to do, but you're right, Joe. I haven't had time to see about getting it working or anything. So.
And you can't just turn up on Sunday night, because for multiplayer, you have to own your own truck.
Yep.
To do that, you're going to have to play at least 10, 15 times unless you use, unless you use a modification sheet, which gives you hundreds of thousands of XP and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Wow.
It would be fun, though. If we could do that
we
sometime.
should
That'd be great.
also invite English Bob to join us in Rocket League.
Well, he had mentioned that too. He had mentioned the fact that he might pick up Rocket League and join us sometime for a stream. So that would be good. That would be good.
How many could play in that game, Rocco?
6 at a time for Rocket League.
Okay.
Well, technically, you could do 8 at a time, 4 versus 4, but then that's just crazy.
That's chaos.
Yeah. The game mode's literally named chaos.
So it's kind of like watching you play Rocco.
It's
chaos.
Well, it's chaos because there's not a whole lot of room when there's 8 cars in there, and you trying to score, trying to pass is like it's chaos.
Massive derby.
Too much going on. Yeah,
there used to be 5 versus 5. It was a little much.
I would actually like to try that 5 versus 5.
It was so crazy. There'd probably be like maybe 10 seconds in the game you weren't being hit by someone.
And guess what I got?
What's that? Well, give us some hints. We'll go ahead and try.
Rocket ball.
It was cheap.
A Steam Link?
Close. But no.
Controller.
It's really not meant to do what it's doing.
Uh-oh.
That could be a lot of.
That's a Rock Band.
Mic.
He took somebody's recommendation.
Yeah, well, it was like $3.86 on Amazon. So I figured it's probably the best backup mic ever made for that money. I mean, you are not going to get a good mic. I plugged this in and I tested it out, and it's way better than any headphone mic, way better than any other mic. It's not better than the Yeti that I have. It has a little back. I tested it out in OBS and switched them immediately, and it has a little background hiss to it compared to the Yeti. And the Yeti sounds much better, but barring that, it's the best backup mic you could have. And for $3.86 and free shipping, I mean, you can't beat that.
So stick a link in chat.
Yeah, let me go find the link. Let me go find the link.
Send me the link, and then I'll put my affiliate code on there.
There you go. I don't even know if I used your affiliate link for that.
Oh,
I don't think I did.
Are you saying that I'm not going to get 3 cents?
That's what I'm saying.
No, you're going to owe him.
Well, that's okay. You can make up for becoming a patron on Patreon.
Yeah, right. I will become a patron when you become a patron of Destination Linux.
Yeah, consider it done.
Yeah, he'll put. There's the 3 cents. Wait for it to get there, Rocco.
Right.
A Patreon or a Libra Pay?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So we Destination Linux has now a Libra Pay account. So for people who don't want to use Patreon,
for people who like to mess with websites.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's another option for people who don't want to use Patreon. So
but it's like if it depends on what your reason for not using Patreon is.
Well,
yeah, but it's not for me. I mean, the Patreon's not going away.
If the
it's just another option.
Doesn't want to use Patreon because of the processing thing, that's a bad idea. Considering LibrePay makes you pay the processing as a patron. If it's like a philosophical reason, then all right, cool.
Hey, guess what that price of that microphone right now is?
Probably a whole lot cheaper.
Nope. It is $38.95.
Oh,
what?
That's the normal price. Yeah.
That's and I got it for $3.96. Sorry.
How?
10 cents off. $3.96 I got it for.
You probably got it maybe like one of the refurbished options or
nope.
Maybe like a crazy sale or something.
Nope. It was a crazy sale. I couldn't believe it. I saw it. I was like, because there were other Rock Band mics that were, $40, $45. And I'm like, $3.96. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's shocking because, I mean, I expect you to have one of those knockoff mics, but you have exact same one I have.
Yep. Got the logo and everything.
Yeah. The without the logo, it's not a Rock Band mic.
Right? That's what I said. And now it's $38.95. So there ain't no sense of me putting the link in the chat.
Sure, Michael Donahue. Just follow it. Maybe I might want to follow it.
Yeah, you can, because we can keep an eye on it. It might become cheap again.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
I can do that.
And then you just, put my affiliate link in there too.
Yeah, just put his affiliate link in there or something. I don't know.
But yeah, this is a surprisingly good mic. And also the fact that it uses USB, so you don't need a mixer; it just automatically works. So nice. And there's no extra drivers you need or anything. It works perfectly with Linux, and it's like even the $30 for a microphone, it's probably worth. I would say it's worth $30. I'd say that's a fine. Like, if you can get it for $3, feel free.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, do that. But
YouTube has butchered that link as well.
Yeah, that they've been doing that forever.
Why?
For the past 3 weeks or so, they've been like, "Hey, we need to be able to track you where you get redirected, and by being able to track that, we're gonna break everything you link."
That's great.
It's like, okay, thanks.
Rocco, is that link complete? It doesn't look complete.
It's not.
Okay.
But there's nothing I can do about it, I don't think.
The only way to fix it is to post it in a.
Well, is it the one by Red Octane or Mad Cats or which?
It's the one by Red Octane, I believe.
Okay.
I will get you the solution. Just a moment.
Well, all they have to do is go to Amazon and just search. Rock
actually way too
come up. It's like
well, I will put it in the Zoom chat anyway, and that way at least you guys can get the link, and maybe you can share it with anybody in the somehow, on Telegram or something else, and that people want it in the YouTube chat.
Great. This item does not ship to the United Kingdom.
Sorry, Sam. It was free shipping.
Somebody here has got to buy it and ship it to you.
Probably the same for Australia too, I think. More than likely.
Or
They'll buy
Thailand.
it for $3 some change, but it'll cost us $8 to ship it.
Yeah, eBay does that a lot. They'll have cheap prices on something, but you're not looking. It's like, oh, it's $18.95 shipping, huh?
I'll tell you what, I'll go do some shopping tomorrow.
Yeah.
Might find one in Thailand in the shops.
I did a short URL one for it, so that's why that one fits in the YouTube weirdness.
There's the link.
Bang.
Check it out.
Yeah. So if you used a URL shortener, would YouTube muck about with that as well?
Probably, if it's still a URL and you're not an admin to do it.
This is a URL shortener by Amazon themselves.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. They provide their own shortener.
Cool. $9.95 on eBay, Chip says.
Yeah, if you know what you're getting anyway.
If you get the right one, it's fine, because Red Octane is selling it, but it has to be the one that's made by Logitech. So.
Well, there is one that's by Logitech there too, and it's $14.45. It says PlayStation 3 though underneath.
Yeah, you should look. They look. That one looks different than this one.
Yeah.
So this one, if it doesn't look exactly like this one, you can't really guarantee if it's going to have it's a good quality.
Right.
And I just randomly had it from when I played that game, 10 years ago.
The one that looks like it is, if you go further down the page, is the Mad Cats one. It's got the same branding and everything. That's $13.99. Now, how good it is, I don't know. It's just this microphone for Wii. It's Rock Band 3. So I think the one, if you look at Rocco's, is probably a better choice. Unless it's the same thing. I don't know. Pictures are the same.
Let's see. The Logitech one is definitely a different one. Let's see if there's a.
So Rocco, what OS are you running at the moment, Rocco?
Solus OS, baby.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you are too. I was saying that on Telegram. Just remembered. Budgie, is it? Budgie? Budgie, is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It is not. I haven't actually taken the time to set it up the way I want it, with panels on the left or maybe a dock or something like that. But it's running great. So.
You like the menu?
It's running great. It really is.
It's running great. It's running great.
Okay, so here's the thing. There is not a desktop environment out there that is going to hit every button and ring every bell. It's just not.
I mean, I'll go ahead and do it for him since he's not here. Have you heard of i3?
Right? Yes, you're right. But only intelligent users can actually run i3, so that leaves me out.
Rocco, I believe he said adult users.
Yeah. So there is no desktop environment that's going to, do everything for you. But so I am to the point now where I've distro hopped 1,000 million times on my main machine. And I'm to the point now where I just want it to be stable. So I can distro hop all I want on my other drives, but for my main drive, for my main machine, I want it to be stable. I don't want to have to continually switch it around and switch it around and switch it around. So my goal or my New Year's resolution will be to stay on Solus for the whole year.
Now, wasn't Solus the one you had problems with it booting after installing, or was that something else?
I said earlier, and it was probably when the audio was not working when we first started. But Chuck Harrington, who is in the Telegram groups and on YouTube as well, he helped me out a lot in not only getting it to boot up, but then also after I got into it to get Zoom running properly and a few other things. So anyway, the no mode set, when you install it, I have to do the no mode set to get it to install. And then when you do the first boot into it, you have to do the no mode set, but I couldn't because it wouldn't show a menu. So, there is a page on their website, if people would read it, that actually says that, if that happens, to just hit the space bar and you'll be able to get the menu. But people like me didn't read the website. Okay.
Yeah,
so
read.
That's interesting.
That's ridiculous.
What is this read you speak of?
So people like me, we just fumble around till we find the answer. And that's what I did. And then he helped, like I said, he helped out a lot. So I appreciate Chuck, you helping out. And now I'm running Solus, and now it's awesome.
Nice.
Cool. Nice. I'm waiting for him to go to Budgie 11, then I want to do fresh install on Budgie 11. So I'm just waiting for that to come around.
Well, one of my questions is when that happens, like I don't think, Solus 4 will not include Budgie 11.
It will not.
No.
So when Budgie 11 comes out, I mean, it's a rolling release, so will it be an upgrade thing?
More than likely, yeah.
Okay.
The way they structure it, it's usually like if they have a big change, they just let you know probably roughly about a couple weeks ahead of time that it's coming. So like every time they've done Budgie 10.4 was announced I think 2 weeks before it actually was available to use. But I don't think they've ever done something that drastically different from a previous version. They've done iterations and big improvements, but not here's a whole different DE thing.
Yeah, I would expect. Well, okay. So does anybody know what it's going to look like? Is it going to be radically different from what we have now?
No, Ike basically said it's gonna look similar. It's just gonna function in a different way.
Yeah,
it's still gonna be Budgie. It's just gonna be using a different toolkit to make Budgie.
Okay.
So you're going to have more options and more flexibility, I believe, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the cute modularity and functionality of it, just it provides a bigger playground for the developers to build stuff. Whereas there's a huge limitation, and they have to constantly play catch up with GTK. So with Qt, there's a lot of updating on Qt, but they always have backwards compatibility. So you can just basically just assume when you release something, it's going to work because it more than likely will for many years.
And that'll probably help them enable a better menu and stuff as well, won't it? Probably
yeah,
implement new menu.
Keep making the same the same stuff.
Let's hope, Colin.
It'll also make it where the current menu is built into the DE. Like this is because Qt is modular. Someone else could make another menu, and you could just replace whatever menu you had.
Yeah. That would be cool. I would love a full screen menu.
Yeah, that could totally be done. I mean, that you could even theoretically take menus from other DEs that are Qt based and just port them over.
Can you not use a menu with Budgie, or is that only for the Mate?
Brisk is for Mate.
Yeah. So
they might, but they might. You never know.
Well, I had asked Ike about that and about the Brisk menu and would it ever be ported, and he said that something to the effect of that. If there ever was anything, it would be a similar thing, but it wouldn't be the same. Like they would maybe work on a new menu that would have sort of the same feature set, but it wouldn't be the same because he's making that specifically for Mate.
What about the menus in KDE? Would they be able to be ported over because they use the same kit? Is it or not?
I mean, yes and no. They could use those menus as a platform to build stuff, so they could continue using the Qt code, but those menus are kind of like integrated into Plasma's environment, so like it kind of needs Plasma to launch them.
Okay, so even though it's got Qt, Plasma's something. See, I don't understand all this back end stuff how it works, but.
Well, it's more of a those as Plasma is Qt based, and those menus are based on Qt as well, but they're based on APIs and like frameworks that are built for Plasma. So they're using those frameworks and those APIs to make their work. Even though they are Qt based, they still need those APIs to be there to work.
Okay.
So like as soon as that's not there, it kind of creates a breakpoint. But they could maybe use some of the code because it is Qt based, and it's not restricted to the Plasma framework, but it does rely on it. So like if they just replaced it with a new framework, if Solus made their own framework, it would totally work.
Okay.
So Rocco, how quick does that seem now compared to what your previous distro was? Because if you remember, I tried Solus 3 on here, the GNOME one, and it was like screaming fast.
Yep. Absolutely faster than the LTS. No question.
Yeah. Qt is a very fast toolkit. Like people think that it's heavy because of like its connection to KDE and the myth around Plasma being
Plasma's so heavy, dude.
Don't start.
I would run Plasma, but it's just so heavy.
I think Plasma and XFCE are almost on par at the moment, to be honest. I've used them both, and they're roughly running about on par, I reckon.
Yeah, well, it's because Plasma is not heavy. Some people like to mess with others.
And at least Plasma looks modern.
Well, it's here's the thing about Plasma.
It ain't heavy. It's my distro.
It's
right.
It's not heavy, and it hasn't been for years. But at one point, it was.
It was at one point.
There was in the beginning of 4.0, there was
I say Plasma 4, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say 4.
Like Plasma 4, in the beginning of Plasma 4, it was okay. Like it was still crappy and broken, but it was okay. But
it was crappy and broken, let me tell you.
It's because it was a whole new thing, and people should expect that because that's how all new things are built like that. They create breakpoints because they want to like reinvent stuff. So it's gonna be whatever. But it wasn't bloated. And like from 4.1 or 4.0 to 4.2, it wasn't bloated. It was broken, but it wasn't bloated. Then 4.3 comes out, and it's somewhat better, but very bloated. And it created this thing when people used it, they were like, oh, wow, this is so heavy, and it's just so slow. It's like, you shouldn't be using it anyway because it's not a production-ready thing. It's like when people were like, 5.2 is so broken and clunky. It's like, it's not meant to be used yet by people. It's meant to be used by developers and testers, and that's it. Like once you start giving it to regular people, you're defeating the point of it. Like you're making something look bad because you don't know not to use it. Like, and to be fair, KDE didn't really tell people not to use it, but
they didn't.
Well, they didn't tell people to use it either, because they in
you put out a distro and you say, "Here's our distro," and you don't tell anybody not to use it. You just put it out there. What do you expect people to do?
KDE did not suggest it. Here's the problem: KDE's like, okay, to be fair,
wait,
99% of Linux-based projects have the worst marketing and press information ever.
You think?
Yeah, right. So when they have like an idea, like, hey, we don't want people to use something, they kind of forget to tell them that. And I was on multiple podcasts, and they were like, "Is Plasma ready?" Like, no, it's not ready. And they kept saying,
Watch, yes, it is. Distro Watch, it's there. Download it.
Well, Plasma was never like, there was never a distro that was Plasma, like just Plasma, whatever. And it was kind of funny because people were like, when Arch switched to Plasma, they were like Plasma 5. They were like, "Oh, it means it's ready." It's like, no, that's not
Arch is bleeding edge.
And Arch switched to Plasma on Plasma 5.2, and I was like, "No, don't do that. You're gonna break my system." And then I go back to test the update that I had pre-done. Didn't know they had done that. Yeah, it did. And then Debian did it too and broke it too. But anyway. So
Simon, there's a question for you in chat. Go ahead, Mike.
The KDE team said, "We will tell you when it's ready. When it's ready, we will say it's production ready. Anybody can use it." That happened with 5.8. The problem is they said that on 5.0 and never reminded people, "Hey, when it's production ready, we will say it is." So people just started assuming. I don't know why, but they did. And I went on the podcast and they were like, "Is it ready?" I'm like, no. So you're saying that this has been 4 versions and we're still waiting? It's like, it was a year ago they started doing this. And like, that's a little, ridiculous that you expect it to be that quick. I mean, it's been 7 years and GNOME is finally usable. So.
With extensions.
So, Michael,
Go ahead.
You run Antigos KDE, don't you, Michael?
I use that as one of the things I use. Yes.
Right. So does that update all the KDE stuff, or you stop it from doing that, or
all of it? All of it.
So you just stay on the bleeding edge, pretty much, do you?
Yeah. And that's a very apt name. Bleeding Edge is a very apt name.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it's because of Arch. Like, I do it because of a test. Is Neon safe to use, even though they have a KDE stack that rolls immediately, even faster than Arch? The answer is yes. But it's not for everybody. But if you want something, if you're comfortable and experienced a little bit with Linux, Neon is fine. It's great for you. If you're a beginner, not so much. So, but I wanted to test it to see, can Arch continue without breaks at the same rate that Neon continues without breaks? And
it was basically a tie. No.
Yeah, totally can. You can. Because have you heard of the audio input switcher applet?
That's totally a no.
You heard of the switcher applet?
That's broken, you mean?
Have you? I don't know. I haven't tried it.
All right, Simon has to answer a question here.
Read it first, though.
Okay, so somebody was asking about the network manager on Ubuntu Next. And it's a little bit of a weird situation because I think it's one that Budgie's going to have to encounter eventually, that we've encountered in Ubuntu Next, and trying to implement it as a distro people should use. For network management, in order to sort of be like the other Ubuntu flavors, we needed to implement a network manager stack of some sorts, and we needed to use that sort of, like I said, stack. And at the moment, they're the only applet that's Qt based that does that is baked into Plasma Workspace. So there's one in progress by an LXQT team member, but that's still really experimental. So we thought we either package the experimental one that isn't ready yet, try to carve it out of Plasma Workspace, or we just go with like the GNOME one for now. So I think that's one of, if not the only GNOME component right now that's in Ubuntu Next. And it was, for a little bit, it was broken because we did we tried to do a network stack transition over to DHCP CD, and that did not work at all. We didn't have the team resources because the person in the team who did it, he thought it would just be as simple as swap it out. But no, there was a lot of configuration that was Ubuntu specific that needed tweaking there. So the short of it is the network manager should be fine now because we use the GNOME applet that ships in, Ubuntu Mate, I believe, and just stock Ubuntu. But the goal is to move off of that long term. And like I said, that the Solus is going to have to eventually encounter this, whether they make their own solution. If they make their own solution that's modular, that's something we can just plug right in. That would be really great. But otherwise, we don't have a solution for that right now. So
Ubuntu Next, that's a daily build, is it? Is that a daily build?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very, very alpha.
Yeah, it's our playground right now for our LXQT transition, which we've been saying that was going to go on for, I think ever since like 1404 and 1504. When I became the release manager, I found out that not a lot of work had been done on it ever since the time when we said, oh, we'll switch. So I'm like, we should probably get something done about this. So slowly and surely, we've been making a lot of different transitions. A couple of them, like we're working on maybe doing something about, I'm not going to go into specifics, but like doing something about ubiquity, and an option would be to swap that out for something. Or, a couple different things. We're just experimenting at the moment. It's not going to be ready for 1804. And if it is ready at all for production, it's not going to ship as an LTS release. So we're slowly working towards it eventually to be an end product. But there's a lot of things like that thing, for example, just that's one of many problems we're encountering that we're the first distribution to really encounter because nobody else really ships. Besides, I've been getting more interested in Red Core Linux. I think that they ship a full LXQT stack with in a Linux distribution. But there's obviously the specifics of each distribution that we need to sort of work out yet. So it's still work in progress, but as is with the rest of Ubuntu Next.
And what is like a time frame for Ubuntu Next for when it'll be ready?
My goal is to get it somewhat usable by the 1804 release. Now I recently, just the last cycle, got upload access to the archive, so that's a major thing that was preventing us from doing a lot of different things because nobody who was interested in working on it had upload access to the Ubuntu archive. So now I see things picking up more. We're working out different things, but I want to say, like I said, by the 1804 release as a non-LTS, but things are subject to change there.
Well, who develops the themes for LXQT? Because there's only a minimal amount of themes, but are they developed by people who are not part of the team, or they are?
Well, the upstream. Are you talking about the upstream LXQT developers?
Well, I'm not sure about upstream or whatever. All I know is when you install Ubuntu Next, and there's a certain amount of themes, I think, on a website that you can download and install them. And I'm just trying to remember how they work. That there was themes that do like the panel and I think the controls, and then there's other themes that do the header bar. Is it? I think. If I remember how it works.
Similar thing that Plasma does, where they have the theming system is modular in the same way that the rest of the system is.
Right.
But I think it's the LXQt team that are doing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, because they They build the default theme, and then they make options that you can change to as well. I don't think Ubuntu's had enough time to create their own theme anyway.
Yeah, okay.
We have had our theme for several releases now. The problem is getting that theme applied by default. So if you install Ubuntu Next right now, the theme won't be applied by default, but you can set it up. In fact, right now I'm running a system with LXQT with the Ubuntu theme on it, which it's running very smoothly for me. I've had little to no problems.
Nice.
I just noticed that
I didn't check that out.
One thing that I struggle to hit buttons, the close buttons and that sometimes, that they're really small in Ubuntu, I've noticed, but I can't make them any bigger. Are you going to be making some themes with bigger buttons and stuff, or can you change that?
I don't think it's been
animated. I haven't really looked at that sort of thing yet because
they're really small.
I could see maybe if you make the header because I think it's a window manager specific thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
we open box, and maybe there's a way to do it use Kwin, which I've experimented using Kwin with Ubuntu Next for the purpose of Wayland support, but which is nothing we're going to support anytime soon, I don't think. But it's possible. I'm just not sure how to do it off the top of my head.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. I just thought there was a way of doing it, and I couldn't find one. But it just looks a bit more modern as well with bigger buttons, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm running the adapter theme, and that has some pretty nice sized buttons on it. But I noticed that in the last few years, a lot of themes have come out, and the buttons are so small. I mean, ridiculously small. And Vertex is one of the themes that is an awesome theme, and yet the buttons are like ridiculously tiny. And the only one that I know of that lets you customize that size is KDE.
So if you use Kwin, which is absolutely possible with LXQT, in fact, some of the upstream developers do use Kwin. You should be able to do that. One thing I would like to mention though is that LXQT 1.0 is not a signifier of this is production ready. In fact, I would even say that Ubuntu Next is not waiting on LXQT to become stable. It's waiting on the applications around it and the theming around it and stuff like that to become stable. Because LXQT 0.12 is, in my opinion, very, very usable. It just could do more user-facing tweaks that would make things nicer, but it should be completely usable and stable. But the 1.0 release is full Wayland support, full complete Wayland support, which is something that I don't know much about, that I could experiment with using Kwin, because one other thing actually with Kwin, the upstream developer for it, I believe the upstream developer for Kwin is saying that we no longer accept any patches for X11 support in the Plasma 5.13 release. He will go completely Wayland. So that's definitely something that we're going to be looking at. We appreciate developer help if anybody's familiar with that, but yeah.
There's still some discussion on that one, but yeah, it's seeming to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to do that, but
So how does that work with the full Wayland support? Is that something like Ubuntu has now, where it would just fall back to X if you had an NVIDIA card, or what?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the distros control, this is more of a developer discussion in the sense of like what Martin's doing with Kwin, and Martin is the main developer for Kwin and has been the developer for a very long time, and he's basically said that he hasn't said it. Someone else said it on a mailing list that they're talking about no longer accepting X support, like X features. So it'd be like a feature freeze. It would still be maintained technically, but nothing new would be added, and all the effort would be moved to Wayland.
But a follow-up was made where he basically said that he won't accept any more. He will silently reject any new patches, patching things on for X he will completely reject those patches from Plasma 5.13 and on.
What is that, to force the issue or what? I mean, like, I don't understand.
I think so.
Kind of. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one way to get things done.
I have often disagreed with Martin's decisions on things.
Yeah, but and you said about it's one way to get things done, but if it's not completely ready for everybody, then it's not really a good decision
to get things done, because people want to fix it if it's breaking their things.
Yeah, but I'm saying the everyday Linux user is stuck in the middle, and they ain't going to do anything about it.
Well, I mean, there is a slight. I mean, the first 5.13 won't break anything. It'll probably be 5.14 that would break something, because like X does not move that much. Like they had a recent release this week, and that was the first release they had in about 7 or 8 months. And Plasma moves every 6 months. There's a new version of, actually probably like more like 4 or 5 months. There's a new version of Plasma. So like I think it was November that Plasma 11 came out. Maybe October. I think it was November.
Yeah.
And there's already another one coming out in January.
Right.
So, like,
but that's extremely fast, though.
It is very fast, but that's not the normal. Like they normally do about 5-6 months or so. The difference between 11 and 12 was so that 12 could be out in January, so there'd be absolutely no excuse for any distro not to include it in an LTS. So that's why they did it. That's why they chose to do it in January. So so that if you look at like the release stuff for 5.8, 5.9, 5.10, those were like, there was a lot of features added in it. And 5.11 had some nice, cool things, but it wasn't like a huge jump like the rest of them were. So like it was more like a stopgap, so that 5.12 would be like a huge push. And the 5.12 is going to be an LTS itself. And then you have an LTS being put into LTS distros. So that's like that will last people a very long time. And 5.13 will probably not break anything, because they're going to release that before X will do anything. And it'll probably be about maybe 5.14 before that becomes an issue. But that's pushing it, whether or not Wayland is going to be like ready or not. So I think they are kind of hedging their bets.
I know from a Kubuntu side, we will be shipping the 5.12 release. We'll also be shipping the 5.9 Qt release in the LTS. We'll probably be going for 3 years of support. So I think it was definitely a good choice on the side of the Plasma team. Maybe it's a little bit of a, like he said, like a bit of a shorter distance between releases, but overall, I think it turned out good.
I mean, as far as stuff that's coming in 12, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. And there's a huge, significant amount of Plasma stuff. Plasma for Wayland stuff. So, like, that's also, they're stabilizing the Wayland aspect to it.
I almost wonder if it would be ready enough if Kubuntu were to consider shipping Wayland as an alternate session. I wonder if it would be production enough for that. It's a question. I'm just now considering this. I'm like, I wonder if it would be production ready enough if shipping it as an alternate session wouldn't be out of the question.
Well, they'd still have the same problem of the NVIDIA drivers.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's actually an interesting thing, because the NVIDIA dropped some new source code they open source some driver stuff for a new memory allocator driver, which is like the biggest problem was the generic buffer memory part of the kernel was something that NVIDIA kind of refused to use, and that created this huge Wayland break. Because without that stuff, without the buffer, the memory allocation from the kernel, they wouldn't work. Wayland just wouldn't work. So NVIDIA created this thing called the EGL streams, and that's their own proprietary solution to replace the buffer memory from the kernel. And basically everyone hated them for it. Like all the developers were like, hey, we know you want, no, we're not going to do it. The Plasma developer, the Sway developers, like specifically said, well, that's nice that you want to do that, NVIDIA, but hey, no, we're not doing it. But this week they released a thing called the Universal Memory Allocator. I forgot what it's really called, but something like that. Anyway, it's an open source driver to replace their EGL thing. So like they don't like the GBM that's in the kernel. They don't think it's good enough. So instead of making their own proprietary version, they're making an open source successor to the EGL so that maybe the community be like, well, if you're going to use this and provide a solution that's open source, maybe we'll consider it. So it's potential that NVIDIA might work on Wayland at some point in the future, like fairly soon even. So there you go. NVIDIA, maybe.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, though, isn't that sad that we're talking about it's a possibility that it could work?
Right.
I mean,
it's only 2017. What are you talking about?
I mean, shouldn't it just work, for crying out loud?
It's only 2017. We have at least 20 more years before we go mainstream.
Of course, they have to ship with Wayland because everybody's starting to ship with Wayland, but like NVIDIA is just now getting their stuff together.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why everybody's shipping with Wayland when, I mean, the predominant video driver cards out there are NVIDIA. Why would you do that? Like, why would you? You're putting the users. Yeah, but okay, but you're still putting the users in the middle. So you're playing chicken, you know, like NVIDIA and Wayland are playing chicken, and you know what I mean? And the user's the one in the middle not being able to get their system to run.
Okay, so to be fair, I agree.
So when are they going to fix it?
I don't think they are.
Oh, man, that's so terrible.
Developers are very stubborn, just so you know.
So
yes,
I've experienced
You
this.
would know that, wouldn't you?
Is my prediction for 2018 going to come true? It's still not going to work.
It's going to come true, Zeb.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, as far as like production ready, no, probably not. I would say maybe 1810 would be like the first time we could hope that would be ready, because like a lot of developers are putting their, like, you know, drawing a line in the sand to NVIDIA and saying, hey, we know that you're not willing to play ball, so we're not going to bother with you. You either do everything yourself or just, you know, cave and work with us. And I understand that reasoning is like, it's true that NVIDIA is like the worst company to work with as far as like a community collaboration approach. They're like maybe the worst, definitely the top three. So it makes sense that they're gonna like put a line in the sand because Wayland is going to utterly break it, and NVIDIA doesn't want everyone to hate them, because you know all the distros will say, because you're using NVIDIA, you cannot have Wayland. And then people will be like, well, they would contact NVIDIA, or they would just bash NVIDIA on social media and stuff like that. So it's kind of like make something break now so that in the future you force the company who doesn't want to work with you to have to work with you. So it's an unfortunate situation, but it's NVIDIA is not going to budge on it. Like in this case, they've kind of budged with the new memory allocator. They've maybe have budged a little bit because they open sourced it. So
yeah, but see, like English Bob, he just put in the chat, he brings up a great point, and he says, I hope Linux in 2018 follows MX17 and Peppermint's lead and looks to its users for what's required. Otherwise, Windows 7 will just go on. What he's saying is, you got to stop looking at things like this head on. You know, we're going to force the issue. I mean, the end user is the one that suffers in all of this, and it's a shame because you have people out there like MX and Peppermint who look at their users and base and they see complaints or they see things, concerns, and they look at it and they try to fix it. And in this area, they're like, you know what, we don't really, not that they don't care about the end user, but they're almost willing to sacrifice the end user to make the point to try to push the issue.
I don't think that's fair, though. I think that's mostly true for most distros. You know, like Ubuntu, they made that thing automatically go, oh, you have NVIDIA, we're not going to make you use Wayland. And I think most distros would try to make it where they don't have to, like the user doesn't have to worry about or even know that this is happening in the back end.
Well, that's the way to go. That's definitely the way to go. But what I'm saying is when you start making it default, then, and you don't have a backup solution, you don't have a solution for, and then you say, well, we're not, like we talked earlier about we're not going to make, we're not going to do any updates for X, or we're not, when you start getting into that area, then it's no good, man.
I agree, except for this is like the desktop environment side is not the distro side, because the distro could just choose to only support 512. And they have many years for 512 to continue. So there could be a point where distros just choose to keep 512. I don't know. But so it's I don't know. I agree. It's just like, so part the developer side of me says there are situations where you have to force someone else's hand.
I agree.
In an environment where they refuse to work with you. And the user side of me, it's like, I hope distros don't switch to it and ignore it, like ignore the problem. I like the way Ubuntu did it, though.
Jacob asked a good question. How's AMD and Wayland?
Actually, quite good.
It's quite even good. The latest graphics cards, yeah.
Yes, but unfortunately, NVIDIA is so much more popular in the video card area
that's also AMD's fault.
I mean, it may work, but I mean, if most serious gamers will run an NVIDIA card, there will be certain people that run AMD cards for certain reasons, but for the most part, the majority of gamers use NVIDIA cards.
And AMD is making, just like with their processors, they're starting to make some gains even in the video side of it, and a lot of it still maintains the marketplace because it's a more budget-friendly product. That said, they're coming up, but I still think it's going to be, like you said, it's I hate to say it, it's like what people are used to, Windows.
Yeah, but I think the video card area, Joe, is less, like you got the Ryzen processors and everything, and they have, made great strides in kind of bridging the gap between performance in Intel and AMD, but the video card area is so lagging behind. They're not keeping up with the same, trying to bring the performance that an NVIDIA card would bring.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's not necessarily true.
They're supposedly trying to work on that right now, and they've admittedly said, it's like pick your battles first, and right now the processor was the better battle to fight. And that's why you're starting to see some new things coming out with the video card side. Although there's been some real hard bashing on the Vegas and stuff like that going on right now too. So I don't know.
Well, you see benchmarks, and it actually depends on the game a lot of times and what the game is trying to do when you compare the cards. But on a general level, on a whole, the gap between video card performance, Intel and NVIDIA, is way wider than the gap between processor performance now that the Ryzen has come out.
Yeah, I just wish they'd put the same effort behind the video cards that they did with the Ryzens. But right now, I think they're still concentrating on Ryzen too. Because I follow them both pretty close, and I am seeing some changes and some talk about some things coming out down the road. But for right now, as of today, you're absolutely correct. There's a much bigger gap with that. And I think people who are just, I hate to use the word fanboys because I like AMD too real well, but I still have NVIDIA cards in here, and I have an NVIDIA or an Intel machine and an AMD machine, but I still have NVIDIA cards in both. But if I was just looking for something that was maybe less intense or whatever, and was looking to save some money, and it'd be perfectly fine.
I think AMD is doing a lot of good work. I think they're just 2 years behind, and that's why the problem exists. Like,
well, they scared the devil out of it, Intel right now when they did the jump with these processors, though, because they made they made a dent in their marketplace big time.
Well, I mean, I agree that the CPUs or AMD are way better than they used to be, and they're actually a competitor now. Whereas, like, they were just like the secondary cheap version. Yeah, now they're actually competitor, and they're still even cheaper in some cases. I would just say that the GPU part is they've basically not put much effort into innovation for so long, and they've ignored Linux for a decade. So there's so much time that they have to make up that it makes sense that they have to pick their battles in a way.
Well, they were on the brink of bankruptcy, basically. If they didn't do something here radical, and that's where I think the processors were the most logical choice to get that basically out of the danger zone, so to speak, or you
could still use an NVIDIA GPU with a Ryzen if you wanted to. So like, it did make more sense for them to go for the CPU approach.
Yeah,
I just think that the question about how's AMD on Wayland? Like, that's a different question than how is AMD drivers right now.
Right.
Like, the AMD drivers are inferior to NVIDIA overall as far as like gaming on Linux, because they haven't had enough time to get to the point where the AMD GPU package stack is good enough. But they are doing a lot of good stuff, like the AMD VKD that was released this week. They open sourced their Vulkan drivers. That's what that package is for. So like the Radeon open source drivers are like taking pieces from that to improve theirs. Like, they're doing a lot of cool stuff. And like, people are not even talking about this one thing. Is called the platform abstraction layer. That's typically a term that is used for proprietary software that sits on top of open source software. Except for AMD open source their abstraction layer. That is like a huge thing that even the open source Radeon drivers team might even adopt. So that could push AMD like really quickly, really, really far. So I think there's a potential that AMD will maybe in 2018 become a driving force for graphic drivers. And I did not mean that pun. In Linux gaming and stuff. Like, I think it might have a good chance. But as far as Wayland goes, Wayland's not really ready itself. But AMD and Intel have the best support for Wayland.
Which brings us nicely onto Vulkan.
Yeah.
Vulkan is actually really good. Like, if a game is designed for Vulkan, it is amazing. Like the processors, like taxing that is done to it, while at the same time having really good performance, it is amazing how well Vulkan works. But there's like 3 of those games. So,
right.
So
maybe 4.
Maybe 4. Yeah, maybe 4. Maybe 2017 F1 was the 4th one. I don't know.
So I take it Rocket League is not one of those.
No, it's not. It's not one of those. It does use Unreal, and Unreal is working on Vulkan support, so maybe. Probably not, because. But still, Wayland is in itself like a weird situation. So, like, I understand drivers not really working for it. I don't like the fact that I think the break point really is that all of these distros and DEs are working to make Wayland the default now. Like, it's still not ready, and I just don't think that that's a good idea.
But hasn't Wayland been a work in progress forever?
Yeah, I think the development started in 2007 or 8, one of the two.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, because it's always it's not ready. It seems like to be a common thing with it. It's made strides, but it's still always, it's all you ever hear is it's not quite there yet. It's not quite there yet. I think now they're finally pushing a little harder on it, working a little harder on it, but it still seems like, you hate to say it, you get kind of tired of hearing that it's still a work in progress. It's like
10 years is crazy.
It's 10 years, but to be fair, I mean, almost 10 years at least. But to be fair, the first 4 years, maybe 5 years, I don't know, maybe definitely 4. The first 4 years, there was like one person working on Wayland. Maybe like every once in a while, like a drive-by coder would come up and submit something and leave. Someone made a video showing the progress of like the commits and how often it was happening. You would see like one guy doing everything all, and then like ping, and then they would just fade away, and it would just happen, and that would happen like over and over and over. So there's like one guy from Intel building Wayland the entire time. And then 2013, late 2012, it all became like this huge push for it. And I'm not saying I'm not
why?
Making a claim.
What made that push? I mean, like,
I can't guarantee the reason it happened, but I will point out that in March of 2013, there was this thing called Mir announced, and everybody hates Canonical, so maybe
right.
So if it was in Intel's box all that time, they should have just given it to Ike. It would have been out years ago.
Exactly.
Probably. I mean, it's like, Wayland, yeah, sure.
No kidding.
He would have probably done something like way better thing that he probably would have done it where he was like, hey, you know what Wayland needs? A compositor. We should probably give it a compositor. Like, and we still don't have a compositor for Wayland.
Novel idea.
We have these. I like modularity. I don't want it in my display server. Like, I don't need that. There's a point where modularity is not important.
It's a question for you in chat, Michael.
Yeah.
All right. Would it replace it in 10 years? I don't remember having this statement.
You don't recall?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Now it sounds like a competition.
The question was that Elvis said that he asked you about 3 months ago when and if Wayland would replace X, and you told him then 10 years. So is that still your position?
I think it'd be 10 years before Wayland gets to the point where it's solid enough to say, yeah, we don't need X anymore. I think people are going to replace it before it's ready to be that. And I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. Like 3 months ago, I was more confident in that statement before Plasma did this stuff, before Sway said these things, and before all these developers are kind of, and like before GNOME was like, hey, we don't care about X anymore. Like before all that stuff happened, I was more confident in to say like they'll wait. And now I don't know.
But that's what I'm asking you. How can they do that? Like, how can you go ahead and make it the default and give it this big push when it's not going to work on?
I think Plasma's doing it the most.
Of the computers.
Yeah.
But Plasma's doing it the most responsible. Of all the DEs that are doing it, they are definitely doing it the most responsible, because Sway is basically like put their foot in the sand and said, no, don't care. GNOME Gnomes basically said the same thing. In a much nicer way, but still.
No, nice, really?
Well, I mean, publicly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like they basically said that we're switching to Wayland by default, and you'll enjoy that, and if you don't, then use something else.
Well, you're going to enjoy it. That's what they
exactly. Said. You're going to. We're going to give you an offer you can't refuse. It's not really an offer. It's more of a demand and a requirement, but still.
You're going to like it. You're going to like this.
And Sway basically did the same thing, except in a very, very colorful way of doing that. But Plasma was like, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it after we've already released an LTS that has multiple years of development that will continue to be developed. And then in 5.13, we'll still have support for X for a while, and 5.14 will probably also have it. So they're giving a certain amount of time that it's potential that it won't backfire and blow.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they're giving it this timeline before it's even ready. Like, they have no idea if it's going to be ready. And
Simon,
they're saying
something but got overtalked.
Who?
Simon was trying to say something, but his mic is too. No, okay.
There's a Wayland is a confusing thing because a lot of people look at Wayland as like it's a replacement for eggs. Not really. It's not really. It's a protocol for a replacement for eggs, but it's not really a replacement. So it's confusing. Without a compositor, a protocol is not that useful. And
someone needs to speak, JP.
Someone needs attention, Barb.
Yeah, I think so. All the others are sleeping. That's why they're not bothering me.
So it's
they're
kind of
good
like,
comic relief,
right?
What a really interesting thing is what Mirror is maybe becoming, and
the display server.
Well, I mean, no, it's becoming a compositor for Wayland.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, like the fact that it can be, well, yeah, kind of becomes the display server with the combination of the two. Yeah. This is kind of what people wanted them to do in the first place. Yeah. So it's really interesting that it might happen. And I know a couple DEs that are considering using it. So that creates a big potential for that push to happen and that to be like a good switch. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, to bring up JP's point, we don't have to worry about it if we run XFCE because we know the updates won't come for another couple years and it'll be good.
So everybody's switching to XFCE, is that right?
So those will show up in 2030.
Yeah. So we should just all switch to XFCE and be done with it because we're safe on there for a while. It's like the Linux LTS desktop environment.
No, right now. By the time Michael gets caught up on his video list.
Whoa.
Wow. Wow.
Can you imagine Ryan next week if we all turned up on XFCE?
Ryan will be leading the charge, won't he? XFCE, go forth.
No, he's moved on to i3. He's much more intelligent than we are.
That's right. He's i3.
Okay.
to quote Ryan, he's using an adult desktop environment.
Yes.
We should all actually install XFCE and replace the window manager with i3 and say, "Come at me, bro."
Mm-hmm. Or replace it with KWin.
That would actually make it useful. So
yes, it would.
What's funny is that XFCE with KWin is actually really nice. Like it's surprisingly.
Yes.
The only thing I don't like about XFCE, that's not true. The main thing I don't like about XFCE is their window manager. But if you have KWin, which that is supported in switching it, like it's pretty good. It's surprisingly good.
I'm pretty sure Spatry used to do videos on KWin. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean,
because that was the first distro I tried that had XFCE with KWin as the window manager.
Right. Oh, really? Which one?
One of his spins. He had a respin of something.
A respin.
Got him.
That's good. Oh man! So this is
Linux.
So everybody has to for next week get some predictions ready because like next week is the last biddle of the year. So it'll be on the 30th.
Oh, okay, cool.
So everybody do some homework this week and get your predictions ready for 2018.
I can't do homework on holidays, Rocco. Sorry.
I've already given mine, so I'll just repeat it.
Yeah, you just repeat yours.
I'll just respin it.
That respin.
Wait, is English Bob still out there, or does he have his hand back up his shirt, making your mouth move? Oh Lord, that's funny.
Yeah.
Predictions, eh?
Yeah. So I don't know. We can start out by talking about
I have a prediction that Solus 4 will come out in January 2018.
be more specific, please?
Yep, that's not.
Whoa, I gave you a month. That's not enough.
No, it's not.
No. That's no prediction.
I thought it was down the last week of January.
I thought he said it was in the first couple weeks of January. Like, I thought that's what it said.
He hasn't really said anything. He's kind of been
but there was a
back and forth.
Yeah, there was a back and forth somewhere. I don't remember where it was.
Google Plus is where he usually talks about stuff. There.
Oh.
But yeah, that was just the one. Like, yeah, I'll give you a prediction that I can guarantee will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Budgie 11 will come out in 2018.
That is almost a guarantee. I think that's a safe bet.
That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you give it till December 31st, 2018.
Hey, I said 2018, so I got all year.
Exactly.
I'm going to go with it'll probably be the first half of the year. Maybe
So we're now doing predictions now. I thought it was supposed to be next week.
Well, totally next week. I'm just making predictions that is pretty much a guarantee.
These are unofficial predictions right here.
Okay. Can I do my prediction now?
We'll just respin everything.
I can't guarantee I'll be here next week.
Well, Colin, what's more important than being here?
Well, it just depends what we're doing on.
I'm just kidding you, man. I'm just kidding. If you want to give your prediction this week, you can go ahead if you're not going to be here.
I reckon Solus will give number one spot a good shake next year on Distro Watch.
Number one?
Mm.
You mean it's going to push Mint out of the way?
If it continues to rise the way if it continues to rise the way it has this year, I reckon it could give it a really good shake.
Not if the website designers of Distro Watch have anything to do with that.
I have a prediction that Distro Watch people will stop caring about Distro Watch.
When, Michael? When
people realize that their rankings are worthless and mean nothing.
But Linux Mint is number one.
Exactly.
Which is based off Ubuntu.
Which is
why wouldn't have been.
That's not why it's worthless. It's just like those are not that. If DistroWatch would stop calling them rankings and calling the trending list, I would not give them a hard time. I would not care anymore.
That's a fair call.
A ranking system. It's like there's no ranking. Your only ranking is how many people go to the pages or go to your website in that distro. That's not how you rank something.
Is it every time? Isn't it when you click on the link on the right hand side is when it gets ranked, or
no?
No.
You go to their individual page on go to the Linux Mint page on DistroWatch. That counts. Go to DistroWatch as Linux Mint and while using Linux Mint. That counts.
So you can actually get 2 hits for one.
No. Who knows? They haven't ever I asked them specifically how they ranked Mint because Mint doesn't tell websites that they're using Mint. Like if you look at the user agent, it says Ubuntu. So how do they know it's Mint? And they say we have our ways. Okay, cool. You're an open source distro maintaining news organization that has proprietary information about. Okay, cool.
Well, so they know what OS.
Yeah, go on, Colin.
Did they know what OS you're using when you go onto their website? Is that what you're saying?
They kind of do with your user agent, but they make other claims with Mint, and they won't tell me why. Because I specifically asked them how they do it in Mint because I knew that that the user agent doesn't tell you. But pretty much every distro other than Mint I've found has a notification that says this is the distro they are using. This is the browser they're using, the version there. This is the web engine they're using, all this other stuff. And that's an automatic thing that browsers send. So, and Mint doesn't update their user agent, so I don't know how they figure that out. But they claim to. So.
And until they collate Ubuntu as one item, then it's never going to be.
Yeah, that's true. That's very good.
True assessment.
Yeah. It's really annoying. They're like Ubuntu, Kubuntu, Lubuntu are all Xubuntu I think is also still top 20 or whatever. So you have all these Ubuntu-based official flavors that are top 20, and Mint, every version of Mint is one listing.
That's right. It is, isn't it?
Xubuntu's 34.
Well, I would think that it would be good to maybe combine them in a separate listing, But I don't think you'd want to combine them in every listing.
I don't.
mean, if if I was going to
Mate meant XFCE.
Yeah, but if I was going to go to Distro Watch 2, and if that was going to be my go-to place to see what a distro was like or how high the rankings were, and I was undecided whether to choose Ubuntu or Ubuntu Mate, I wouldn't want them all lumped together. I'd want to know, which was more popular between the two.
That's right.
So it would be a good idea to maybe have a set where they were all collected and put into an Ubuntu category, but I don't think you'd want to do away with what they have now.
Well, to be fair, I don't want them to call them rankings. That's the problem. Like, which one should you use? It's based on what's ever the top rank distro watch. No, that means
the
nothing.
Most popular.
Like that's
maybe the mint should be separated as well. So maybe that
they could do all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah. I don't think they even have the ability to know the difference, honestly.
So how do you know that's a good point. How do you know what the difference is with Mint XFCE and their KDE and their Cinnamon and their Mate? I mean, how do we know which one's more popular out of all those and how you choose?
None of Mint tells you their user agents. They don't tell you the differences. And like Kubuntu and Ubuntu all have a different user agent. Slightly.
That's not fair. That's a bit unfair, isn't it, when you think about it? I never looked at it that way, to be honest.
So there's just so many aspects to it that just makes it. If they didn't call it ranking, I wouldn't give them a hard time for it. That's all they have to do. Call it a trending list. Call it a. Yeah. That's basically what they should call it, trending list.
So, English Bob said at the end of 2017, can you suggest a single Linux distro which is as good, if not better, than Windows 7?
Zeb?
I already know where he's going.
I use it 98% of the time, so there's your answer. As in,
okay. So Zeb's answer is Hannah Montana Linux.
Is that right?
Understandable.
I could never get that to flipping burn because I didn't think of your idea of burning it to a CD.
Yeah, the only way to do it is I actually tested that. There's a specific piece of software that it required the kernel to be able to do USB booting. That's not in the kernel that's on that distro, so you can't even do it, even if you wanted to. You can try literally every combination of things. It won't work. But I think the answer to that question, the 2017, it's a hard question because what point? As good, if not better than Windows 7. It depends on who you're asking, because if you're talking to a gamer, they would be like, there's no way to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So
if you're talking about a general user that uses for social media, YouTube and things like that, and no gaming, there's a plethora of distros out there that you could choose.
I think there's quite a few. Yeah.
See, I don't know if I agree with that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I know the other drive that I was not worried about fixing. The other day I just decided to throw Windows back on it again, Windows 7, and I'm going to tell you, I've been on this so long now, and it's year and a half that I've used this exclusively now. Whether it was Mint or whatever distro I have, that I'm on Linux, that honestly, all the years of Windows actually feels uncomfortable to me now. It's not that I can't use it. I don't like being there anymore. I almost feel like I'm cheating, because
you're cheating.
You are, Joe. You are.
Well, I know. That's why. And truthfully, I'm going to let it sit there a little bit, and I may just wipe it and put another distro on there or something that I want to use regularly instead of dual booting. But it just... I have it there in case I want to play a specific game. And even at that, it's like I could count on one hand how many times I go to that thing. And it's just funny how I've gotten so comfortable. And I think that's what it comes down to is people are so comfortable with using Windows that they can't imagine using this. But if they gave it a chance and use it for a while, going back to Windows is going to feel uncomfortable at some level. And that's what I feel like right now.
Yeah, but I think that what Steve's point is that you have Windows 7 and you don't need it to play. I mean, obviously Peppermint will run just as good for us, but there are people out there that are not tech savvy, that don't care about trying a Linux thing out, that Windows 7 just works for them. So yeah, we can find a distro that, like Colin, you made the point that, you have distros out there that if you're just going to browse the web, they'd be perfect. But you have to convince people to do that. And when you have new users that come on and then they run into an issue where if they run into an issue on Windows, they don't really look at it as Windows' fault.
But see, here's part of the problem. Just the way we're talking right now, that's the way Linux is referred to. Oh, if all you want to do is browsing and all you want to do is some simple tasks, it's fine. No, I think it's more than that now. I think this does a lot more, and I enjoy gaming on it and all of that. Let's look down the pike a little further. When Windows 7 is gone completely, which isn't that far off, how happy do you think people are going to be on Windows 10? Because I still, to this day, hear complaints of people. They're in the middle of a workflow, and all of a sudden, Windows decides, I'm going to do an update right now, and they lose everything. And that's not going to stop, because Windows is forever spinning a drive or whatever, because it's always got something new it's pumping in there. And you could sit there and go into the registry, and there's ways of doing it to shut, it's not just to check the radio button to shut it off. Their stuff runs in their telemetry. So you could go into the registry and shut all it off, but guess what? After it happens,
it's back.
They're going to repump it back in with a new update anyway, and it's going to be all turned right back on again.
Yep.
So
I'll tell you what,
the thing is, it'll be interesting to see when there's no more Windows 7 to be had. There's going to be the diehards just like with XP, but it'll be interesting to see the people that once they're at that point, if you don't see more conversions happening. I hope, but
I think distros like MX17 are good because they've got this ability to make a respin, or whatever you want to call it. Whereas if you want to offer Linux to somebody and they are a gamer, you could set it up for them, and you could make your own ISO to install a gaming distro, or you can make an ISO for a general user, right? And you could use either one of those to install it for them. At least you know it's all going to be completely set up.
And if you install the distro for them, you could do that with anything. You could just set up whatever you want with anything. Just like, what's best for them. Like, that's what I want people to do. Because most people are not coming to Linux and expecting to have to learn how to, burn a ISO to a USB drive or any of that.
That's right.
So, like, if you switch someone to Linux, it's best to give them something that is like already preset, that you gave them, all these defaults that are like nice, sane defaults, stuff like that.
That's what I'm talking about. So you make the ISO yourself, and you offer to install it for them, which is what I'm looking at doing. And that would be a great opportunity to, at least you don't have to muck around with it, because it's, set it up once, make your ISO and done, right? And you got one for the gamer and one for a general user.
Yeah, but that stuff updates so much, it's like hard to keep up with that. Well, it's based on Debian. I guess you could do that. But I think that I have a weird suggestion. It's two distros. One is like, I don't know. But the other one is Ubuntu Mate with the Redmond interface. If you switch that and also install a theme that's not bad. And if you make it look modern and you have the Redmond interface, it's a good distro. Like, it's a very solid, nice distro.
Yeah.
But if I were to say something else that's like the preset, like the defaults are like pretty good, insane, and you don't need like absolutely every possible application, I'm leaning to Solus. It's got a nice polish. It's got a nice approach. And if you don't need to worry about like installing all this different software that's like stuff that's already default, or stuff that's just in the software center and that's enough.
Yep.
That's a good option. And you can basically for a rolling release, it's surprisingly I'm surprisingly comfortable.
Stable, very stable.
Yeah.
Like, even like the fact that they put effort in to say it's rolling, but we're not going to give it to you unless we have tested it thoroughly. Like, that is something that is very rare in the rolling release structure. So, even with rolling, like if it didn't roll, I'd be happy to suggest it. Even with rolling, I'm still leaning to suggesting it. And that is in itself a feat, in my opinion.
Yep. Yes, but it also has...
Go ahead, Barb. they're adding more and more to their software center all the time, and that's making a difference.
And snaps are coming in Solus 4.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what Solus reminds me of. It reminds me a little bit of the Apple iPhone ecosystem type thing, whereas they've got these software in the software center, and it's all tested, and you know it's going to look and work, and the look will be consistent across the board as well for all applications. So they seem to do a really good job on that as well. So,
but Solus itself or Budgie itself has that familiar interface, and
by default,
that's right.
The defaults are awesome.
It's very Windows-ish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't even know if it's Windows-ish. It has a modern feel to it, and yet it still has that classic feel to it. It's like a really good mix.
It doesn't look like Windows, but it has it's Windows-ish enough where people would switch to it and be familiar with it.
Like, I agree with that.
The I totally agree with where they expect it to be. The pin app system is where they expect it to be. Like all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, to go on, EB says the point you're missing is if I've invested in Adobe, forget Linux. If I have a Lexmark all-in-one printer, forget Linux.
If you have a Lexmark all-in-one printer, you made a bad choice because those.
Peppermint and MX are excelling, but who else is? And I guess his point. I mean, you can pick on Lexmark and everything, but his point is that if you've invested in software and hardware, certain ones that don't work well on Linux.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's the thing. It's all dependent on the user. At the end of the day, regardless of how much we want it to be, a Linux world, and we want people to use Linux. The reality is, it's the software and the hardware that people use. At the end of the day, you have to make it fit for the person and what their use case is. As much as I love Linux. There are certain things Linux cannot do. Does it have Adobe? Do they have
that? Is fake news, Matt.
Does it have Adobe? Yes, kind of, sort of. Yes, it does. But no, it does.
So you try you can throw out alternatives. You can tell them Lightworks. You can tell them
literally, you can use all Adobe products. I mean, Premiere and After Effects, maybe.
That's where yes, Photoshop.
Most people. Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator, all of those are a yes. You can totally.
But when people talk about investing in Adobe, they mean the entire.
Not really, no, because the creative people, like designers, don't care about Premiere. They don't care about Premiere. It doesn't matter. So, Premiere is a very niche specific thing, and I think that if you're trying to convince them, and they're like, "Well, can I use Premiere?" They're like, "Well, no." They're like, I don't care. That's a fair point. With Photoshop, the Code Weavers team making Crossover 17 provides support for all the Creative Suite. That is, I don't know about After Effects Premiere. I don't know, maybe, but definitely the rest of it. And they also provided MS Office 2016, which is the latest version. Yeah. So, the answer for those things is yes.
Yes, but my point is still, nonetheless, it boils down to the use case of a user.
And that still comes down to today. 10 years ago, Linux wasn't a glint in anybody's eye. No. Where now in the conversations that we're having now, even Noah, he was on Twit channel for that, or it was a recording, and he talked about the one place that Linux is still a work in progress is the desktop. And again, I think conversations like these that happen today, even though there's problems, are good ones because there were conversations like this happened 10 years ago. So I don't think it's going to be that far off because if Linux user base grows even more and keeps growing, you watch these other big companies, if they can find a way to monetize out of this, they'll come on.
I can guarantee you there was conversations like this 10 years ago because I was in them.
You know what I'm saying, though, Michael. Bottom line, the average person didn't know much about Linux. More and more people now say, I heard of it, but I don't know much about it. So they've heard of it. Back 10 years ago, not many people even really heard of it. It's my
right. I agree. What I was saying is that I was in those conversations. They happened. They were always they ended very badly. They always ended with no. Or, hey, can we use these software? No.
To me, at least, I see light at the end of a tunnel here somewhere along the line. I don't know if it'll ever get here. Maybe not even in our lifetime. I don't know, but I'd like to see that. But the thing is it's still promising because it seems like we keep moving in a forward motion. Yeah, there's some things that, you're still spinning in the mud until you do a respin, and then.
But I think that goes back to the fact that people like us in this group have almost accepted certain things not to work.
Yeah.
So we're okay with it. And what I guess the other side of that point is there are some people that are not okay with it. It's, you can go back to gaming and you can say, yes, gaming on Linux has come a long way, and it really has.
Yeah.
But it's still a long way to go, and you're not going to play Battlefield anytime soon on Linux. You're not going to play Call of Duty anytime soon on Linux. And so what it looks like to us is we've made great strides, but we're so close to it that when you step back and look at it, it's like this. It's compared to the other side, and I think that's where the point is.
Don't you think that's the same between Apple and Windows too? I mean, because if you think about Mac, I mean, there's still things that one and the other can't do for each other, even though they all, I have an iPhone and there's,
It's that way with any technology, though. Like, how many people just kind of accept Windows for its flaws? And we know it has many. Everyone uses
that for one. Yeah.
But everybody uses it. They just kind of accept it. We know the problems with Linux, but we just kind of accept them because we're close to it.
Very true.
It's the same way with anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Zeb, what were you going to say? You've been trying to chime in.
I was going to say, let me make another prediction. Yeah, we will still be having this conversation in 2028.
This conversation is never going to go away.
I think snaps are going to make it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it just annoys me. If somebody says, "Oh, can you give me Linux?" because I talk about it, they'll say, as soon as they say they've got an iPhone, I say, I don't want to deal with it. Because iPhone is one of those things. I've got family members with iPhone. I've got Windows 10 on this laptop that I'm using now, dual booting with Ubuntu at the moment. But I keep this laptop with Windows 10 because every now and then family needs something, they need help with an iPhone. And the only way I can help them is with Windows 10 or a Windows computer. I have to have it because you need to download iTunes and they want to put music on their phone and you can't do that in Linux.
But wait, I got a great CLI program for you that...
Stop. Pause right there.
CL.
Just copy this command into the blinking cursor.
Yeah, just do sudo apt.
What do you mean? All the applications I use start with an I, not end with an I. What?
Sudo apt nuke iPhone.
Yeah, sudo apt. Yeah, no, but see, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just you're going to have it. We accept it. Us here, we accept it because we want Linux to be popular. And it is popular, but it's only popular to a certain extent, and we have to have that realization that it's not as popular as we'd like it to be.
No, we'll say Apple's got so many things hooked up to their own in ecosystem, haven't they? That's one of the things. They don't want to make anything or an iTunes for Linux or anything. It's not in their best interest, is it? Really?
Oh, definitely not. They don't care. They don't even make Safari for Windows anymore. Like, they only make iTunes for Windows because they have to. If they didn't have to, they wouldn't. And they don't really update it worth even once a year, maybe.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like, I would say Safari, they abandoned Safari on Windows like 5 years ago.
One thing that Tom said I caught part of his telecast with Toss on it, and they were talking, and one of the things he said, which there may be some truth to it, is part of the reason why Linux is struggling getting any room in the marketplace too, is because you don't see it sitting on a shelf in a store. Like they said, years ago, Walmart tried it and it was probably one of the worst ones to try it with. And you don't always get a chance to make a second best impression. But there's some truth to that, because maybe if they, even if you had one machine, and I'm not talking Chrome OS, I'm talking an actual Linux Ubuntu machine. If because Dell puts one out, why doesn't Dell put one on the shelf there for $100 less? Or are they afraid they're going to sell? I don't know.
Yeah, probably because
I don't think Dell really cares as long as they sell a machine. To be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. But that's my point. Is that would be the perfect company to drop one on the shelf right now. And why are they?
Dell have had Linux-based laptops before.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the shops.
Right, but I get the point I'm trying to make is what he made was he's saying part of the reason why it's not getting maybe more and more into people's minds and in the market share, the way I took it was because you don't see them sitting on a store shelf either.
Yes, but what distribution would you put on it, Joe?
Well, probably just with Ubuntu, just a straightforward Ubuntu, which is probably look what System said before they did Pop. It was.
But okay, but here's my problem with that. You would think you would put the Ubuntu LTS on there, 1604. But if you asked any one of us in this room, what would we give a new user?
Oh, I wouldn't put it on there. Yeah, I mean normally, but
so that's what I'm saying.
Well,
it's
people
a great
know the
idea.
Ubuntu name is what I'm getting at, but maybe it would be. Maybe Mint would be the better choice, even though
I guess what I'm saying is the point is we wouldn't ever come to a conclusion on what we would want to put out there.
Right.
I think
would
that's
all
true,
go
but
around.
you could say that it doesn't matter what, like the companies could pick. They pick Ubuntu anyway. They should have just picked Ubuntu years ago and done it before now. Like now they're in a limbo state where it might not be the best option yet. Like it's not as stable as it was. But like 2014, 1404, 1604, those are very stable distros.
Peppermint would actually be a very good choice because it's screaming fast and it's stable and it's simple. I mean,
maybe Dell don't want to have part of the main maintenance part of it either, because troubleshooting or whatever. Because
but don't you think they have to already now, though, Colin? Because
not if people know what Linux is. They specifically go and buy a Dell computer because they will maintain it themselves. But maybe Dell doesn't put it out there. It makes them more accountable for it. Yeah,
but Chris Fisher just did a tour a few months ago. It was over the summer out there, and one of the biggest conversations they had in there was talking about exactly what you're talking about. That they are looking to support it, and they are looking to get more involved, and they are working more toward this, and they're dedicating servers and everything else toward it. So they are making, even though it's not maybe as publicized like it should be, but they are.
They started very late.
Huh?
They only started because of the stuff they started with the Sputnik. Was it Sputnik?
Yeah,
Sputnik.
Yeah, it was because they started doing that, like in 2013 or something, and the guy who started that and the guy who was on Unplugged for the conversation, he essentially said Dell did not care if we did this. We did this in our own side project with Dell's permission, but they didn't care if it worked or not. If it worked, great. If it didn't, it doesn't matter. So there was no push from Dell to support Ubuntu or any kind of Linux. They didn't care. Now there's a push because they know that there's a market for it.
That's
the
right.
problem with it is that they know there's a market for it now when there's a situation where the option to choose is in a limbo state, and you can't really say, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine to use this because the next update is not going to be even remotely close to that. Stuff like that. It's hard. They took so long to finally just say, yeah, we are going to join the market share with Linux. But now they're at a point where what do they choose? Because they're not going to choose Peppermint. As much as I like Peppermint, they're doing anything like it.
And to be honest with you, the forums would have a heart attack if we suddenly had 10,000 new users jumping on there going, well, how do I do this and how do I do that?
That too. I'm saying any
distro. Not there.
Yeah.
No, they'll probably put something if they were to do it, they probably put something simple and clean looking. And when I say simple, like elementary or something like that or whatever.
They wouldn't do that either.
No.
There's only 3 options they would even consider.
Right.
And it's Ubuntu, Fedora, and OpenSUSE.
Mhm.
That's because they're all 3 backed by big companies. If they don't have a big company to work with, they're not even going to
Right, that's what I said about that. Now, even aside from that, I mean, don't you think that, let's say Dell said, hey, we're going to put some of these machines out there, and they start marketing it and pushing it. Don't you think that, hey, I want to be out where the competition's at, and all of a sudden the next big company will jump, I mean, you'll start seeing more of them come out if it looked like it was going to gain. And
if they adopt it,
If you got some of these out on the shelf, and especially a big company behind one of them, the rest would follow. And then all of a sudden, a lot of these conversations wouldn't be happening because they'd be there.
So what would their marketing be though? I mean, like, you can't market that, hey, it does iPhone, or hey, you can game, or
you did the same thing Apple did. Hey,
they want to market it just for business machines. Just basically, hey, you want to do your, like you were talking about, you want to talk about simple tasks. You need something for your everyday tasks. You can still do some business with them, whatever. I mean, I'm never going to, unfortunately, unless they come out with it, I'm never going to be away from a Windows machine because of my accounting. That's the one and only program that's keeping a Windows machine in this office right now. Otherwise, I don't have to have one. I still could do what I need to do right now in GIMP or
do you use QuickBooks?
A lot, but I mean, I've got everything here that I really can work with. I do my online business in here, and that's the thing. The more and more of this software that goes to the cloud, and if they have the adaptability to be able to, if you're able to run it, on Linux, what's the problem? You know what I mean? As long as you don't have to, and that's where Adobe's at right now. You still have to download or load some native files on your system. But if you have something that's truly cloud-based, like even my wife as an example, she's a full-time realtor. And the only reason why I bought her a Windows 10 machine, it was like stabbing me in the gut to buy that machine for her. But the only reason I did is because, number one, you know what? It's still sitting in the cabinet over 2 months. I bought this thing because she's still on her Windows 7. But I know what's going to happen. There's a minute the other one craps out, then she's going to panic. But I've tested everything she uses in Linux, and it runs. It works because it's all online based. But the reason why I did that, the one and only reason, is the first time that a marketer or some kind of a vendor comes and says, hey, you need this in your real estate business, and it requires Windows, and she can't do it, she'd be cutting my head off. But that's a wrong projection to make. Maybe she doesn't need it because everybody and her cousin's trying to market it. But right now, as of today, she can run anything she's doing right now, she could run on a Linux machine. So
I especially with like the web app stuff. When you say accounting, are you talking about business accounting?
Yeah, I am not. Yeah, because GNU Cache, I know there's a company. No, the reason why I was saying that, because I thought that's where you're going to go, because there's a company that contacted me about building a machine. They use GNU Cache, and I'm thinking, really? I use QuickBooks on here.
Okay. Do you need like double entry accounting, or like what does QuickBooks provide you that you cannot use with anything else?
I haven't found another one that's basically already set up like it. I mean,
you're going to find it exactly.
It's got to be built out. Sure. I do journal entry, I do class tracking, and all that stuff.
Okay, so like a project structure.
Yeah, reporting, that kind of thing. I mean, when I was contracting, that's how I originally based this, because I had to do change orders and things like that. I don't have to do much anymore. I got to do invoicing from time to time and things like that.
So I want you to check out something, and this is the side track. Sorry, but there's a software called Invoice Ninja, and I've been using it for quite a long time, and it is fantastic. It's web based, so you host it yourself, but you can also put it on your own computer if you want to.
Isn't there another one out though too that's supposed to be pretty popular? I thought. I can't think of the name of it now. What's the one that System 76 uses? That's supposed to be another one too.
Oh yeah, Beanbooks.
Yeah. I just get nervous with anything that's cloud-based with my accounting and customers, sensitive information, things like that.
Well, you can have it. You can store it yourself. It doesn't have to be cloud-based. You can just install your own, like the software in your own system.
Okay.
It's meant to be used in a browser. That's all.
Okay.
So it's open source, and I've been using it for quite a while, and I think it's like probably the best open source option
But how does that work? Okay, now if I go to my accountant, because right now my accountant keeps all the versions in there. I take a USB to him, he drops it in there, and boom, and he uploads, and he's got everything. He's looking at my books exactly as I have them. So how does that work when you bring up your accountant then?
Okay, so with your accountant, QuickBooks is an option.
There you go. So that's the point. I mean, even if I found something,
some of the issues, aren't they?
Linux, yes, it still has some, unfortunately, some, I'm going to call them vital limitations, but I'm at a point where I'm running it 98 or 99% of my life now, and that's a total change around for what I used to do. So
it's hard in that particular sense. I would virtualize something, but that's just like a very specific niche suggestion.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest that to most people. Like earlier when I was talking about using,
that's my point. Is trying to get people. This started out with the point that Tom had made was getting Linux out in the marketplace. A nice bump would be to see it on the shelves. Somebody putting something on the shelves, and then once one does, then the others go, "Oh, we want to be there."
Well,
too.
I mean, what happens when someone wants to use QuickBooks and all these other software? What do the companies have to say when people call them and say, "Hey, I want to use QuickBooks," and they have to go, "You can't use that." Then why did you give me this broken system?
Well, you could have that.
Yeah, that was my point I was trying to make earlier.
Like I am, everybody unfortunately, you're going to have a dedicated machine for something like that. Then, and unless
that's the issue. Like when people go to a store and they buy something, they expect whatever they want to use to work. And if you say, "Hey, you can't use this," that they would have so much raging customers to them that Dell would not even no. They would say, oh, "Okay, here's a Windows key. You can use this now."
But that's again, it comes back to their marketing and has to be properly marketed on what the machines can do, I guess, too. I mean, it's still
that's true. But there's
bottom line, let's face it, unless you're a student that has to do Adobe in college, or specific software like that. If you have a kid that just needs to go to school, write papers, do general everyday tasks, they still can get them out in the marketplace. The point is you start out in baby steps.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just trying to push too hard. I don't know, but I think if you were sitting on the shelf, it would probably jump better.
I think the computer on the shelf is actually like a bigger step than gradual. I think that's a step where you're like, this is a solid solution. People would be happy to do this. And if there's any gaming is not that important for most people, and but something like QuickBooks or some other kind of proprietary thing that doesn't have an alternative at all. Linux doesn't have an alternative for QuickBooks at all. There's things that you can replace in some cases, like the Invoice Ninja is fantastic for some people, but if they need specifics, like giving the same file to an accountant, that accountant has probably spent years learning QuickBooks, and that's super hard to get them away from that. So if it doesn't have that one particular thing, that could be very bad for a lot of people. So I think that's a big jump, really. I think a baby step would be like just doing a marketing campaign and getting people want to try it. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, people are using Chrome OS, so it's almost like the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, people are happy. People love Chrome OS. I know people who they didn't have a laptop and they asked me what laptop to get, and I was like, they gave me the list of what they wanted. I was like, Chrome OS would be fine. They're like, how much is it? Like $150, something like that. They're like, oh, well, I'm in. And they go and buy it. Now they've been using the same thing for like 2 years and they love it.
Right.
I would love to continue another 15 minutes talking about QuickBooks.
Pumpkin?
But
Pumpkin.
Well, no,
it's too late. Okay.
I know. But it's just
all right. So everybody gets a last word. Matt.
YouTube.com/user-1778.
No. It's tuxdigital.com.
Oh, it's that.
/dark1.
That's dark1/778. Yep.
Forgot Michael added that. Thank you.
Michael, last word.
I think everybody needs to do it with me, actually. So say cheese.
Cheese. That's your last word.
You're a character. Shane? Shane, this will probably be your first word and your last word.
Well, I think I just have a prediction for 2018 that System 76 will release a Ryzen-based computer.
Wow.
Mainly because
that is an interesting
one in a back room that they're testing.
Nice.
That's cheating.
Well, I live 10 minutes from their offices, so.
So you got inside info, dude. I mean, that's not fair. How's that fair for a 2018 prediction? Like you got it in the bag.
Well, they keep having issues with it, so they have to fix a bunch of issues with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Nice. Colin?
Well, I'd like to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to start off with. It's been awesome chatting with you guys and got to know a lot of people. It's great. Also, I'm looking forward to a hot, spicy Thai curry shortly with some Chang beer.
Yeah.
Joe?
TuxDigital.com. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Pete?
Go Pete's Tech Den on YouTube.
Nice. Do you have a tuxdigital.com/Pete's Den?
No.
Almost.
You might soon.
You will shortly. As Michael adds another subdomain.
What? Why would you assume that?
Barb, last word.
Because it's you.
Respin.
Respin.
Nice.
Respin.
I love it. Zeb, last word.
I'm going to nick one of Michael's phrases he used on Telegram and wish everybody a very merry Peppermas and a Happy New Year.
And also Merry Christmas with a K.
Well, I'm going to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here and everybody that's in the YouTube chat, because it wouldn't be the same without every one of you here. It's been awesome to talk to everybody throughout the year. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
welcome.
Solus for the win. Just saying.
Solus for the win.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we go, though, I just
you had your last word.
But this is not my last word.
Okay, go ahead.
This is techdigital.com/Pete'sTechDen.
Nice. I love it. There you go, Pete. You can use that anywhere you'd like. I'm sure he would like you to use it anywhere you'd like.
You can use it anywhere you want. It's perfectly open. Also, just so EB remembers, it's techdigital.com/EnglishBob.
Mm-hmm. He's gone already, but we'll let him know. So next week, everybody bring your 2018 predictions, except for Shane, because he's already used his.
He cheated.
But anyway, bring your predictions, and we'll talk about what's happened in the last year and maybe what we hope to happen in 2018.
Cool.
So until next week, see ya.
Bye.
See ya. Good night.